let's talk about something almost all of us know intimately: unrequited love. It's that ache that's fueled a million songs and poems, a feeling so common it's practically a rite of passage. Today, we're going to get into the anatomy of that ache to really understand what's going on.
Wow, this quote just cuts right to it, doesn't it? It's that little pang you feel deep in your chest. You're pouring all this energy and emotion out, and it's met with, well, nothing. It's like you're putting on the performance of a lifetime for an audience of one who doesn't even know the show has started. So, what are we really talking about here? At its heart, unrequited love is just a huge imbalance. It's not just a passing crush. No. This is when you've got this deep well of affection for someone. You know their coffee order by heart. You hang on their every word. But that same warmth, that same care, just doesn't flow back your way. It's a love that's stuck in a what if. Now, if any of this is starting to sound familiar, I want you to know something really important. You are so far from being alone in this. This one-way street of a heartbreak, it's an experience that connects us all. I mean, just think about it for a second. That high school crush who had no idea you existed, the best friend you secretly fell for. It's a story that's been told over and over, from ancient myths all the way to today's pop music. It doesn't care about your age, your background, or where you're from. It's just a fundamental part of being human.
And here's where it gets even more interesting. This whole experience isn't just one single thing. Turns out, it can show up in a few different ways, and each one has its own unique kind of heartache. So let's break down the 4 main types.
Okay, so these are the 4 big categories. You might even see your own story reflected in one or more of them as we go. We're going to start with the first one, the unnoticed. First up, we have unnoticed. This is exactly what it sounds like. The person you have feelings for is just completely oblivious. To them, you might be a great friend or a coworker they get along with. You're right there, in their life, but your deeper feelings are totally invisible to them, like a song playing on a frequency only you can pick up. The second kind is a little trickier. We call it unacknowledged. This is when they probably know. They pick up on the signs, the little things you do. But instead of addressing it, they just kind of ignore it. Maybe they change the subject or keep everything on the surface. It's this weird dance that can make you feel like you're going crazy. Then you have rejected, okay? This one is the most direct, and yeah, it's often the one that stings the most in the moment. You've put your cards on the table, and they've looked you in the eye and said, I don't feel the same way. It hurts like hell, but at least it's clear. Hope, for better or worse, is off the table. And finally, there's imbalanced. You know, this might be the toughest one to break free from, because they do give you something back, just enough to keep you hooked. Little breadcrumbs of attention, a nice text here and there, but it's never ever on the same level as what you're giving them. You're always on the losing side of an emotional seesaw. So all of this begs a really big question, right? If it hurts so much, why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we get stuck? Well, the answer starts to make sense when we dive into the psychology of why we're so drawn to people who are unavailable. It doesn't make any logical sense, does it? We find ourselves chasing people who are emotionally distant or already with someone else, or just plain not interested. We know it's probably going to end in pain. So what's the deal? What is the powerful force pulling us in? Well, psychologists have some pretty fascinating ideas. Sometimes it's the simple thrill of the chase, the allure of what we can't have. Other times, we're basically falling in love with a fantasy we've projected onto them. But a really powerful driver often comes from our past, from our earliest relationships, and how they wired our brains for connection. And this is where something called attachment theory comes in. See, if you have what's called an anxious attachment style, you might be drawn to an unavailable person because, deep down, you feel like if you can just win their love, it'll heal some old wound. But on the flip side, if you're more of an avoidant type, an unavailable person is actually perfect. It lets you feel a connection without ever having to risk real, deep intimacy. Okay, so after all that pain and confusion, is there a silver lining? I think so. And it comes when we shift the focus, when we stop looking at them and start looking at us. This might be the most important takeaway of all. The person who can't love you back, they end up acting like a mirror. Their unavailability reflects your own unmet needs, your recurring patterns, your hidden fears. In the end, this whole painful experience isn't really about them at all. It's a chance to learn something profound about yourself. And that brings us to this central paradox. Because, yes, On the one hand, it's just a deep, undeniable ache. It's rejection, it's longing. But on the other hand, isn't it also kind of beautiful? It's proof that your heart is capable of feeling so, so deeply. That you can love with everything you've got, with absolutely no guarantee of a return on your investment. There's a real strength in that.
And that's the thought I want to leave you with. What if we reframe this? Instead of seeing it as a failure or a loss, what if this experience is actually a roadmap? A painful, yeah, but powerful path to understanding who you are. It might not lead you to the person you thought you wanted, but it might just lead you back to yourself.